Snow fell over the northern hemisphere like a soft blanket laid by a tired sky. It was Christmas Eve, and the world felt gentler than it had in years. Decorations glowed in windows, families settled into warm rooms, and cities hummed with quiet celebration. The world had long remained isolated from the vastness of the galaxy beyond, content with its small triumphs, its scars, its rhythm. Humanity, for all its chaos and stubbornness, had built this evening on a foundation of resilience. But the sky, without warning, changed. Some people noticed first: stargazers, security officers, a few excited children pressing faces to frosted glass. What they saw resembled a second moon rising. No, not rising. Growing. A shape blotting out constellations one by one, an expanding silhouette whose edges shimmered like polished metal. By the time sensors detected the intrusion, it was already too late. Across Earth's surface, phone recordings began to capture the moment humanity's peace fractured, a silent descent of geometric shadows slicing through the clouds. No booms. No warnings. Only a compression of the air, a stillness that felt wrong even to those who had no idea what was coming. And then the ships arrived, vast structures of obsidian alloy, cut with glowing fissures of blue energy, sank toward cities like titanic fangs. They made no sound upon entry, not even the friction of atmosphere daring to touch their surfaces. They drifted until directly above population centers, then stopped, too perfectly, too heavily. It was on this quiet, gentle Christmas Eve that the Galactic Empire made itself known. People filmed the sky, confused yet entranced. Some believed it was an atmospheric testing exercise. Others whispered nuclear fears. But those who watched closely felt something else: the way the ships seemed to observe them, as if cataloguing the world with an intelligence older and colder than they could imagine. When the first beams fell, they did not destroy. They disassembled. Columns of shimmering particles rained down, breaking into thousands of threads that scoured streets and plazas with mechanical precision. Anything older than a certain threshold, anything deemed non-biological, was ignored. But anything living was scanned, sampled, analyzed. Families ran. Parents shielded children. And still the beams followed. Above an old suburban neighborhood, in a small house wrapped with warm lights and a plastic Santa on the roof, two boys played with model ships on the carpet. Their mother checked the oven, humming a tune their grandmother had sung every Christmas Eve. The smell of cinnamon filled the room, and then the windows flashed blue. The woman turned sharply, sensing something wrong in the air. Her mother's instincts surged faster than her thoughts, and she ran to the boys just as the door caved inward. Not shattered, folded. Metal fused and bent like clay as a team of armored figures stepped inside with terrifying calm. Humanoid in shape but towering beyond human military measure, they moved with a grace that betrayed inhuman musculature. Their armor flowed with organic curvature, each segment shifting like a living organism. Their eyes glowed from behind featureless masks, cold and calculating. The woman reached instinctively for the kitchen knife she kept near the counter, not because she believed she could win, but because mothers don't think, they act. The soldiers didn't even raise their weapons. A pulse of force, invisible but irresistible, threw her across the room. She hit the wall hard enough for the picture frames to fall around her. Her breath fled. Pain echoed down her spine. But she still crawled back toward her sons. The boys screamed her name. The soldiers didn't harm them. Instead, they scanned them, one hand hovering near each child's head, reading neural patterns, bone density, genetic expression. A chime sounded, crystalline, final, compatible. The word wasn't spoken aloud. It vibrated inside her skull through some telepathic resonance, cold and emotionless. "No," she whispered, clawing at the floor. The nearest soldier turned, and though she could not see its eyes, she could feel its decision. She felt, deep in her bones, that she meant nothing. That she was a civilian. An expendable element of a resource world. The boys cried out as they were seized. One was hoisted by the collar, the other dragged by the arm. Their small hands clawed at empty air, reaching for their mother. No. Let them go. Please. She pushed herself up, lunging. Another pulse crushed her into the wall. Her vision blurred as the soldiers carried the children outside, She heard them screaming until her ears rang with nothing but a horrible, piercing silence. Across the world, thousands of families experienced the same nightmare. Children vanished into hovering transports. The Empire's ships swallowed the carriers and rose through the atmosphere without a single word of negotiation. No explanation. No demands. Just an efficient harvest. In less than 2 hours, over 30,000 human children, ages 5 to 12, were taken. The world reeled. The woman regained consciousness surrounded by paramedics who had no idea how to treat injuries from weapons they'd never seen. Streets overflowed with emergency crews, drones recording the aftermath, and parents sobbing into their hands. Governments scrambled to assess the threat, but the Empire had already left Earth's orbit. It had been a message, though none could decipher why. The woman's face never appeared on screens. She rejected interviews. She refused every attempt by government officials to pry information from her beyond the basics. Her name was mentioned only once in an internal military report before being redacted for classification. But she had once been known. She had served in Black Ops units whose missions remained buried. She had commanded battalions in conflicts Earth's population never learned about. She had trained elite strategists and war planners. Her mind had been compared to next-generation AIS, her ability to predict battlefield outcomes measured with a precision that defied statistical norms. She had retired only because she wanted her sons to grow up in a world where she cooked dinner for them, braided their hair when they were little, helped them with school projects, taught them kindness. Now the galaxy had taken them. And the woman who had once walked away from war walked back into it without hesitation. She vanished from public view. For 72 hours. During that time, satellite data showed she entered the United Earth Defense Command building, descended into restricted floors, and accessed classified archives far above her clearance. Security feeds glitched out shortly after. Personnel records from those days were later flagged and sealed under the title The Last War Directive. What emerged from those 3 days was not a grieving mother. It was a general. The highest uprooted military authority humanity had witnessed in a century. She did not request her rank, she took it. Her presence in the Command Council reframed the global discourse instantly. Nations set aside borders. Generals deferred to her with a mixture of dread and awe. Politicians found themselves outmaneuvered before they spoke. She addressed world leaders in a single message broadcast internally across the defense network. The Galactic Empire took our children. We are no longer a planet. We are a civilization at war. And then humanity changed. Factories that had lain dormant since the last global conflict roared back to life. Nations pulled their resources under a unified banner, producing weapons and ships at a speed that defied projections. Orbital platforms expanded. Asteroid mining operations scaled overnight. Scientists unlocked technologies they had never dared pursue. Because the general demanded it, she moved between command rooms like a spectre, never allowing cameras to display her face. Her voice carried across holographic maps like a controlled storm. She analyzed alien tech remnants left behind on Earth, deciphering their architecture faster than even the brightest research teams. The void between stars was quiet, but the human fleet tore through it like a blade through calm water. Dozens of battleships, carriers, escort craft, and experimental warp-strike vessels traveled in formation. An armada birthed from desperation and genius. Human engineers had built these machines in months, something no other world had ever dared. The Galactic Empire would have expected a century-long military build-up. It had not predicted the fire that grief could ignite inside the flagship. The general watched the growing starfield with narrowed eyes. Her face remained unseen by all but a few. Her voice, even when calm, carried the weight of storms. The galaxy had become a chessboard, and in her mind she was already 10 moves ahead. She studied star clusters, warp lanes, imperial supply chains, algorithmic projections of possible ambushes. Everything she had learned across her career sharpened into a single unbroken beam of purpose. She had given humanity something far more dangerous than weapons. She had given them direction. The fleet dropped into its first targeted system, a star surrounded by the remnants of smaller civilizations long crushed under imperial rule. The Empire had built mining rings around the local planets, siphoning resources with cold efficiency. Patrol ships drifted in lazy arcs, their crews accustomed to subjugation rather than resistance. When the human fleet arrived, the Empire dismissed the warp signatures as anomalies. They paid for that mistake. The first strike was silent. Human stealth frigates emerged from shadowed angles behind the farthest patrol units. With precision-timed pulses, they unleashed weapons designed not to destroy, but to disable, electromagnetic spears that fried engines and scrambled navigation. Empire captains tried to respond, but their commands lagged, their systems unprepared for the sheer audacity of human tactics. Then the dreadnoughts fired, blue beams lanced across the void, carving through Imperial hulls. Shattered fragments drifted like dying stars. Within minutes, the outer patrol ring collapsed. It was the first time in millennia that the Empire had felt fear from a lesser species. Human Marines boarded disabled vessels, storming corridors with controlled fury. Empire soldiers, genetically modified, indoctrinated from youth, conditioned to believe themselves superior, found themselves overwhelmed by creatures who fought with a reckless, unpredictable aggression. Humans used improvised grenades, hacked into systems mid-battle, turned broken machinery into weapons. They adapted faster than any alien force had ever witnessed. The general observed everything through tactical overlays. She spoke few words. Her officers read her silence better than any speech. The first system fell in under 3 hours. News spread slowly across the Empire. Rumors whispered through military channels. A primitive world has risen. A species too young, too chaotic. Their admiral, a woman, they call her something. Others said she was the ghost of an ancient war. Others claimed she wasn't human at all. The Empire dismissed the reports as exaggerated. They would not be laughing for long. The campaign stretched across multiple star systems. Humanity learned quickly. Every battle taught new lessons. Every fallen soldier fueled the general's fury. She studied Imperial command patterns, intercepted encrypted data streams, dissected the enemy's arrogance with surgical precision. The Empire began to understand that this war was not like any they had faced. Humanity did not fight for territory. They did not fight for resources. They did not even fight for survival. They fought for their children, and that made them unstoppable. As the fleet pushed into deeper regions, they encountered other species, some enslaved, some broken, some hiding on shattered moons. Many witnessed the human flag for the first time and dared to hope again. Some joined the war. Some warned humanity to turn back before reaching the Empire's core. But nothing slowed the general's advance. Her fleet bypassed fortified choke points through unpredictable warp jumps. She weaponized comet tails, detonating them into starlit shrapnel. She lured enemy cruisers into the gravity wells of collapsing stars. She used psychology as much as firepower, broadcasting deceptive messages, forcing Empire forces to redeploy constantly, wearing down their morale. Humanity became the storm that crossed the galaxy, yet victory alone was not enough. The general needed information, the coordinates of the Ascendant foundries, the facilities where the Empire remade abducted children into soldiers. She interrogated data cores torn from Empire vessels, interrogated commanders who believed themselves unbreakable. She learned the structure of the Ascendant network, a neural ladder spanning dozens of systems, connecting every child soldier in training. Her sons were part of that network. Her voice changed when she learned this. It grew quieter, colder. Officers felt the temperature shift in the war room. The war accelerated. The Empire, now truly alarmed, declared a formal mobilization, something it had not done in 4 centuries. Entire fleets repositioned. The Emperor's High Council convened. Strategic analysts studied human tactics with frantic urgency, trying to classify an opponent that defied classification. For the first time, they acknowledged humanity as a threat, and for the first time, they whispered the general's unofficial title, the Human Cataclysm. The war reached its turning point when humanity discovered the coordinates of an ascendant training world known as Iron Halls, named for its labyrinthine metallic cities and coliseums where young trainees sharpened their minds and bodies. It was here that thousands of abducted children were molded into living weapons. It was here that the Empire believed its future army would rise. The general ordered the fleet to attack. Iron Halls was heavily fortified, its orbits lined with defense platforms, its surface guarded by legions of augmented soldiers. But humanity did not attack conventionally. The general saw the world differently. Instead of striking the defensive ring directly, she targeted the system's moon. She ordered the detonation of seismic charges deep beneath its surface, causing it to split into fragments that rained down on iron halls like burning meteors. The planet's defenses turned upward, desperately trying to stop the barrage. That was when the human fleet descended. Drop pods pierced the atmosphere. Ground troops landed in precise formations. Exoframes thundered across metallic terrain. Empire soldiers met them with disciplined ferocity, but they had never fought opponents who changed tactics every 5 minutes, who used debris as cover, who turned fallen enemy weapons against their creators. Humans fought with a fury that came not from training alone, but from the terrible knowledge of what this world represented, deep inside one of Iron Hall's central towers. Human ground forces found something that made even hardened veterans falter: genetic logs cataloging abducted children. Their development stages, their compatibility scores, names, ages, images, the names of Earth's thousands, and among them, 2 entries nearly erased by encrypted locks. Her sons, the general, received the data. She stared at it for so long that her officers worried she had frozen. But the heat building inside her was volcanic. She ordered the tower evacuated. Then she ordered it destroyed so thoroughly that the metal beneath it liquefied into rivers of molten alloy. Iron halls fell within a day. The Empire trembled. But with victory came the next revelation. Her sons were no longer on iron halls. They had been transferred deeper into the Ascendant network. Children marked with high adaptability were moved to a world nearer the Empire's core. It was a place known simply as the Citadel. The general changed the entire war plan instantly. Every fleet movement shifted toward the coordinates of the Citadel system. Admirals argued about the risks of such an aggressive path. She silenced them with a single sentence: "I will reach the Citadel. You will either follow or be crushed with the Empire." They followed. The journey toward the Citadel was the deadliest phase of the war. Empire forces fought with desperation now. They ambushed human convoys, set traps in nebulae, deployed gravity mines that tore ships open like paper. Battles raged across asteroid belts, in the shadows of dying stars, inside the ruins of ancient megastructures. Humanity bled, but humanity did not stop.